Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, and here we are to analyze the characters and what role do they perform in the novel, and what is their importance and significance in the novel, and how they actually are interconnected, or how Charles Dickens have just presented or just made a whip and wap out of all these characters of the novel, and how that protagonist, that David Copperfield, come out as a prolific writer, establishes himself as a good writer and proves to be a good husband and a good human being, and how he faces all the problems in his life. There were struggles, and how he overcame all those struggles. So that is all what we are going to discuss here in this David Copperfield, in this novel. So let's discuss all the characters one by one. So your first character, of course, is David Copperfield. The protagonist himself. Yes, of course. So David Copperfield is the hero of the story, and he is his childhood days were really very full of struggles, and he had to face many problems. It was not a happy childhood because just 6 months before his birth, his father died, and afterwards, when he was quite young, quite small, his mother married a very cruel person named Murdstone, and it was really a horrible time for him, a nightmarish time for him, because the person, Mr. Murdstone, was very much cruel to him, and even punished him and didn't behave very well with him. So the childhood time for David Copperfield was not at all very good, but he faced all those problems in a very brave manner. He braved them all well, and finally he could have a good life. So how it all happens, we'll discuss that in the story. Now your second character is Clara Copperfield. Yes. And Clara Copperfield is David's mother. So there was great difference between David's father and who was David himself. His father was, of course, David, and this David Copperfield, our hero, is David Jr. So he was named after his father, and mother Clara Copperfield, she was quite younger. There was a wide gap between father and David Senior and Clara Copperfield. She was quite small and quite sweet and quite beautiful, and but an unlucky one or unfortunate one, because that married life couldn't exist for a long time, and she lost her husband quite early, even before David's birth. And later her decision to marry Murdstone proved to be wrong, because his only purpose was to have or possess all the property that she had and the money that she had. So it was a disastrous one. The decision was quite a wrong one, and later on she also died. Later she gave birth to another child, and she there in that birth she actually died. So David lost, when he was 10, he lost his mother, and the life she spent later with Murdstone, that was really a very bad and miserable one. And with the same name we have another character, that is Clara Peggotty. And Clara Peggotty is the maid, is the servant, and she plays an important role in this novel right from David's childhood, she had been there in the family and had been serving them and was there with David till the end of the novel. She was quite a faithful, quite a loyal servant, and always been there with David in all his problems, advised him whenever he needed an advice, guided him whenever he needed guidance. So was really like a mother for him and a guardian for him, and just had been, we can say, a pioneer in different circumstances for him, always supported him and always stood by him. So that is Clara Peggotty. And we have Mr. Peggotty as well, that is Daniel Peggotty. Mr. Daniel Peggotty. So Daniel Peggotty is Clara Peggotty's brother, not husband. Okay, so he is the brother and he lives in Yarmouth. Peggotty's house is in Yarmouth, and there he lives in an upturned boat. That is, there was boat all upturned, and they had made that boat their house, and there they lived. So he is a fisherman, and along with him we have some more characters. So let's see who are those characters. So along with this Daniel Peggotty, we have Ham, and we have Emily, or we also know her in this novel as Little Emily as well. So Ham and Emily, these two characters, these are actually cousins, and both are orphans. Yes, their parents died early, and later Daniel Peggotty decided to just have them in their family, and they Daniel looked after the two children, took care of everything, all their needs, and brought up in a very loving and affectionate manner. And along with these characters, we have one more character, that is Mrs. Gummidge. Yes, Mrs. Gummidge. So Mrs. Gummidge was living with Daniel Peggotty. She was actually the wife of Daniel's partner, and as the partner died, lost his life, and after that he thought that she had nobody to support her and to give her a life. He brought her to his home, and since then she had always been with them. And like in the early part, she always was sorry the kind of life she had, sorry for the loss of her husband, that she lost her husband, the husband died. So always she had that self-pitying attitude. She was always feeling very bad about that, and lived a very miserable in a very miserable kind of way. But later on, she came out of that self-pitying attitude and that miserable attitude, and appeared to be quite strong, and then took care of Mr. Daniel and Emily, and lived a very beautiful life, lived in a very good way. So that's how we see Mrs. Gummidge in this novel. And apart from this, we have Mr. Chillip. So Mr. Chillip is the doctor who assisted in David's birth, and he actually, when she was in that last stage of pregnancy, means it was like about to deliver a child. So the servant, the maid, Peggotty was asked to call a doctor, and then a doctor, Mr. Chillip, arrived there, and he helped and assisted in that delivery of the child. It was midnight. David, of course, was born Friday midnight 12, and he was born with, that membrane. Generally, sometimes it happens that some children are born with the amniotic membrane. So his face was covered with amniotic membrane, and she kept that membrane with her for a long time, and she just she finally even sold that membrane in a bid, and she got only some shillings for that. It was it is also called caul, C-A-U-L, caul. So she sold that amniotic membrane later on. So Mr. Chillip was the person who was there to assist in that delivery of David Copperfield. And now we have Mr. Murdstone. So, and this is actually Mr. Edgar Murdstone. So Edgar Murdstone married Clara Copperfield. So the purpose was not that he loved her, or he was like madly in love with her or something like that. He eyed her property, he eyed her wealth, he wanted to have or possess all that only, and that was the purpose, and he trapped Mrs. Copperfield, and he was successful in that. And when they were to be married, David Copperfield was sent away from home to Peggotty's house, Yarmouth. There he spent some day, and when he returned, he found that Murdstone was there. And as I said, he treated David Copperfield in a high-handed manner, beat him and punished him, sent him away from the house to a boarding school, a very bleak school. So this was what he did to David. Had proved to be he proved to be a very cruel father. So this is all about Mr. Murdstone, and we have his sister as well in this novel, and his sister, that is Miss Murdstone. So Miss Murdstone, like her brother, it was like brother, like sister. So Miss Murdstone was also very cruel lady, and she even outspokenly or outrightly she declared this, that I hate boys, I hate them, I don't like men at all. So this was what she used to say, and of course her treatment to David was just like what she said. She never loved him, or she never liked him, and never did anything good for him, and always had always been instrumental in increasing the misery augmenting the misery of Mrs. Copperfield, Clara Copperfield. And when she came to the rookery, that house, David Copperfield's house, she took all the keys in her possession, in her control, and now both brother and sister managed the house, and only it worsened or aggravated Clara Copperfield's situation in the family. Now she was like not the owner of the house, she was like the servant of the house. So that kind of miserable life she had to lead after the entry of Miss Murdstone in the family. So, and later on Miss Murdstone, she actually became the caretaker of Dora Spenlow in this novel, Dora, whom David later married. So she is found working there in the family, taking care of Dora Spenlow. So in that way we find her in the novel. Though David and they both actually recognized each other, and then they had a secret pact that neither of them would tell about their past to Dora or her father, and they agreed upon that point. So that is Miss Murdstone. And now we have some characters of Salem House, that is Mr. Creakle. So Mr. Creakle is the headmaster of a boarding school, that is Salem House, and he was presented as a very cruel headmaster, dictatorial headmaster, despotic headmaster, who was very harsh and who was very tyrannical with his students, and always they punished the students. Their behavior and attitude with the children there was very bad, and there was an atmosphere of horror and terror in the students there. So that kind of person he was, though in the later part or later on he became soft, and when David's mother died, he brought the news in a very compassionate manner to David, and later he even from there he shifted to some other place and became the jail, means the owner of a place. So something like that. There was a change. We'll of course discuss about this in detail in the novel itself. When we discuss the story, we'll discuss about the characters in more detail, that what they all did apart from the brief idea that we are having here. So that kind of person he was, the headmaster of Salem House. And in the same school we have Mr. Sharp. So Mr. Sharp is a teacher there and is quite a powerful and influential teacher there. There was one more, Mr. Mel, but he had more power and more influence over the students and the administration there. So that's how we know about Mr. Sharp. And now it is Mr. Mel, as just I pointed out. Mr. Mel is a poor teacher there. He has no power or no influence, and even later he was dismissed from the school just because he argued with a student there named James Steerforth, and James Steerforth was quite a wealthy and powerful student. His mother had a good influence in the school and interference as well. And so as a result of that, as he argued with James Steerforth and just scolded him, so what happened was that he had to lose his job. So that's how his situation in that thing, means when he was in the school, so he ended up losing his job there. A miserable fate for him he met there, though his situation was not very good. He was poor and he was looking after his mother with the salary that he was getting there. But as he lost his job, so it became quite difficult, though later on he also did very well and became a very successful person later on. But in that particular situation it was really a bad thing to lose the job in the school. So these are some of the characters in the novels, and we have some more characters and definitely we'll discuss them as well. So keep watching. I'll upload some more videos including your poetry and other things. So just tune in and continue watching, be in touch. Okay, you will get to know when I upload the other videos. So till then, thank you very much.